doubt Latah would even be talking about it based on his argument.
Well, just one, let us have our discussion. I'll get
One
to, no, just a second.
One sec.
Just a minute. If you wait, please.
It's just, I think she was gonna say it's difficult for us to hear back
Cannot
here.
hear
Oh,
back
I'm
here,
sorry.
so we were just wondering if you could turn your mics.
Actually, you guys don't need to move your mics, I'll turn the PA up. So thank
Oh,
you for
okay.
saying
I'm
something so that I
sorry.
can do that.
Forgive me.
They're turning it on for you, John.
Can you hear?
How's
John,
that,
how's
John?
that? I don't know something.
You got me, John?
Little better.
You can sit up front here, John.
Actually, we do have a plot to try and be as quiet as can so people can't hear us. But you're obviously on this, so that's not gonna work.
The speaker, yeah, it's,
You can go rain.
I'm gonna back
That's
up.
Okay.
The difference between, because I'm a great advocate of money staying, keeping our game at home. But I think the problem with the Lockstock change with legislation, as I understand it, is that there's language in there that could be interpreted in good part of Latah County.
Understood.
So that might be a distinction.
Okay.
Now, back to the subject at hand.
I'll let you two start and I'll chime in.
Tyler, did you want to
Well,
comment?
there's a current bill that's out that they were seeking comments, and I'm not sure if that comment period is even still open any longer. There was
I don't know.
Rish, I think, was trying to get comments for that.
But all I've
And
heard
I
is
don't-
that there's a rough draft, there's nothing definite. I mean, it's not, it's,
Right.
is that?
Sure, one of these people could probably answer
It
that.
hasn't been really very well defined. It's just this thing.
So is the comment period still open?
No. Why are we all here?
They wanted it on the,
I believe that it
People
ended
asked us.
the 11th of December, according to Rich's office.
Just wait 1 second.
If people in the audience are speaking,
Yeah,
you
we're
want
gonna
everybody,
do
okay.
that.
No, you're fine, I'm waiting for you
Are you,
to do that.
are you ready for our audience?
I'm ready, yeah, you were gonna, I think you was gonna answer your
Okay,
question.
now it could be some hard notes.
Again, Gary McFarland, I live outside of Troy. While the comment period that Senator Risch established is formally over, I'm sure he would take comments, especially from elected leaders, about the discussion draft. It's a draft bill, it was drafted by the proponent, Western Pacific Timber. It's fairly detailed, and it does include contingency land in Latah County. And so I'm sure he would take input on that. As far as I know, he has made no decision whether to introduce or not to introduce a bill. So now is probably a good time for the county to weigh in if the commissioners would like to say something about the lands in Latah County.
thanks for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yes.
So, in my understanding, when you're saying contingency, is that the main proposal for a land exchange is for a lot of land outside of Latah County, and if some piece of land didn't work, or some chunk, some combination of land didn't work, that they would come to Latah County or other counties as an alternative.
Yes.
And so that's why, that's the argument for the relevance to Latah.
Yes.
Relevance in terms of land itself in Latah County, not that, I mean, I also think it's relevant in that many people in Latah County recreate all over the region, or use those public lands all over the region, whatever the verb might be, recreate, use, fish, hunt, I don't know, whatever, but, yeah, sorry.
I'm gonna get to you, Abby.
That's all right.
Okay.
I'll zip it, I'll zip it.
I'm Marilyn Beckett. I live just outside of Moscow in the county. I think one of the reasons that this is very relevant for the county to look at right now is because originally there was a lot of land in the county that was being proposed for exchange. And actually, any and all of those lands are still on the table, and maybe other ones, because if Senator Risch was able to legislate an exchange, there isn't necessarily going to be any environmental analysis, and they don't necessarily have to use the lands that were evaluated in the environmental analysis. So given the fact that this draft bill, which has kind of been floating around for a while, and Senator Rich has not really attested to the fact that they're even really looking at that bill, but yet it's still there. You know, we just don't really know what we're looking at, but obviously Latah County was involved, the Police Ranger District was heavily involved, and since, you know, we moved into this kind of nebulous zone of the Forest Service, you know, just kind of throwing up their hands saying, well, we don't really know what to do with this. And Senator Rich saying, well, you know, maybe we should be looking closer at this with the aid of ex-Senator Larry Craig as a lobbyist for the company that is promoting this exchange. I think, you know, it's something for the county, for Latah County to really be paying close attention to.
Gary McFarland again. I want to echo what Marilyn just said, but also to point out that Senator Risch at the hearing in Rangeville did suggest that if the lands that were very contentious that were proposed by Western Pacific Timber were not sufficient, that he might consider other lands. And so I think it's very relevant to Latah County because of the Police Ranger District. And that could happen in any legislation.
And since it hasn't been drafted and we don't know what it says, nobody knows.
That's right.
Yeah, back in,
Yeah, Kathy Judson, I'm Benawat County. Just for the record, Benawat County is adamantly opposed to this exchange. From my point of view, this legislation,
Stop, right there. Let me clarify, the commissioners
yes,
are opposed to it, Jack Buell is opposed to this?
yes, and always has been. They have not changed their stance from day one.
Interesting. Okay, carry on.
So, from my point of view, I would like to see all the county commissioners request that the Forest Service continue the process. This legislation should not be even considered at this point because the NEPA process has been stopped, which has taken the public's input out of the process. NEPA was put into place so the public could have their input in a process. And by Rich taking over the lead on this, he shut the public out of the process. And I know the past county commissioners in Latah County, they put in comments with the NEPA process. They'll never be responded to. I personally put in about 7 pages. One entire page totally pertains to the University of Idaho and the impact it would have. Not one of those will ever be responded to unless the Forest Service takes the process back in their hands and responds to the public. So I would like to see you guys demand from the Forest Service continue the process so the public is not left out.
anybody else? John and, yes, Mr. Krebs.
I'm John Krebs. I can't hear what's going on, but I could sure hear Kathy. And if you would allow me, I would just read a letter and I'll give that to you folks when I'm
Yes.
done reading it. It won't take very long. But we're speaking to an entirely different commission than when this first started. And so I wanted to give a brief history. The Latah Land Exchange was considered a done deal before September 24, 2008, when the public was first informed of the proposal via the Lewiston Tribune. Scoping meetings held later that year, November the 17th in Elk River, November the 18th in Moscow, November the 19th in Elk City, were not widely publicized, so attendance was extremely low. The deadline for public comments to the Forest Service was January 5, 2009. The timing of these events further limited the public involvement. Think of the timing. Right during the Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays, you're supposed to engage the public in a land exchange that they know nothing about? It's ridiculous. On December the 4th, 2008, 6 Forest Service retirees who had collectively spent over 100 years managing the National Forest on the Palouse Ranger District made a presentation to the Latah County Commissioners. After hearing our concerns, the commissioners requested that Forest Supervisor Riley schedule another series of scoping meetings. One of these meetings was held on April 9, 2009 in Moscow at the Job Service Center, and the overflow crowd of informed citizens adamantly opposed the exchange. At the close of the meeting, Supervisor Riley asked, "How many acres will we exchange?" The commissioner, the very loud response, "Not 1 acre." Expletives omitted in my letter. Riley's closing statement was, and this is important, "We will continue the process." That's the NEPA process. As a result, the Friends of the Palouse Ranger District was formed by Kathy Judson, Marilyn Beckett, and Cheryl Haverson. Spending countless hours and thousands of their own dollars, they contacted hundreds of individuals, organizations, elected officials, civic leaders, etc., alerting them to the exchange. In the Grangeville area, Roger and Janice Ingram initiated similar action. The DEIS was opened for public comment on November 20th, 2010. Hundreds of responses were submitted. Over 90% opposed the exchange, and those comments are available to the public. Anybody that wants to ask. Senator Rich could ask. He didn't need that deal down there to find out what the public thought. Anyway. The DEIS, mainly involving lands in, the DEIS was open. Hundreds of persons responded. 90% opposed the exchange. Those comments are available to the public. In November 2011, a supplemental DEIS, mainly involving lands in Idaho County, was made public, but it exceeds the delegated authority of the Forest Supervisor. He couldn't act on that kind of DEIS. Still, the majority of Idaho County residents opposed the supplemental DEIS. Now, here's my point that I want to make. Had it not been for the Latah County Commissioner's letter to Supervisor Riley requesting a new series of scoping meetings, the public voice would never have been heard. That's very important. While you, as the current commissioners, may or may not have a different opinion on the merits of the exchange, you definitely know your constituents' opinions. Therefore, I'm asking you to write a letter, make it public, to the Chief of the Forest Service, Tom Tidwell, requesting that the Forest Service complete the FEIS, that's the final document, along with a decision notice. The FEIS is required to respond to all comments under the National Environmental Policy Act. That much is owed to the public. They need to bring, that's 6 years. The public has been inputting on this thing and no response from the responsible people. Also, a letter should also request that no legislative action be taken until the NEPA process is completed. That's what the public was promised when Supervisor Riley said, "Let the process work." Clear back there in April of 2009. Also, please consider sending copies to the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest Supervisor, the Regional Forester, Senator Crapo, and Senator Rich. Thank you.
John, before you sit down, can you define public? Like, is that our county citizens, or Idaho County citizens, or everybody? When you say the public was 90% opposed?
I've got to come up closer. Here,
I can
I'm
answer
sorry,
that.
I'm
I can
deaf.
answer